Carlos Luna.
And I'm Becca Scott. This is Tabletop News, your official stop
for all things tabletop.
Let's roll.
No more endless scrolling, no more massive articles, just fun facts.
Skyrim is coming to Tabletop with an exciting new board game.
Every game starts with an unskippable cutscene and ends when a frustrated player shouts, "Foosh, roll, da!"
Reacts.
I was told there'd be no math. I am not a math Asian, so let's keep moving.
Exclusive interviews with Tabletop's biggest names.
Oh, I didn't know donuts was an option.
And the largest events. Gen Con!
Man, Gen Con really makes me want to cosplay as a guy who attends events.
I really can't see you putting on pants for something like that.
I feel like there are so many of us who can relate to that.
See you next time on Tabletop News,
your official stop.
Your official stop.
Your official stop
for all things tabletop.
Can you tell your mom to turn on the AC?
Mom!
Oh, we should now be here, I think. I think we're here.
We're here.
I'm here. I'm Dave. There's Steve. And hi, it's Katie Wilson. How are you doing, Katie?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. And you guys have such an amazing logo graphic in the beginning. That was awesome. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. I was trying not to laugh. I don't know if you saw it because before we were on screen, obviously we can all see each other when the graphics are going on. But it's like when he says, "I didn't know we could bring donuts." And I was like, yeah, I'm hungry now. I love donuts. Yep. I do that. How are you? How are you doing? It's the afternoon where you are, and it's 9 p.m. where we are.
Oh my goodness, yes. Smack dab in the middle of the day. But I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. How are you? How are the both of you?
Good. It's the UK, so it's raining as you'd kind of expect. Mary Poppins has got an umbrella ready because we've got downpours all weekend. So that's it. That's the weather for the UK. But
it's actually raining here in California
really?
too. It's been raining pretty much a lot of this week and year actually, which is crazy. So
it's been I didn't know it was. It's definitely been a wet year for us. I didn't know. I'm always expecting California, LA to be nice
Constant
and super
sunshine.
sunny, as you see in the movies.
It usually is, but this year has been like one of the rainiest years for us in a long time, which is good because we need the rain. And also when it rains, California gets so green and it's so beautiful. So I love that. But, driving in the rain here is not the best.
Yeah. Okay, so we are here because you've obviously seen the news. There is a Kickstarter happening right now. Which you can find if you just go to Kickstarter.com and you type in Tabletop News, you will find it. There is a brand new Kickstarter from Casey and the rest of the team. We've got Adam and James who are putting all this together, plus a whole slew of hosts for Tabletop News. So, how can you sum up Tabletop News as quick as you can?
Oh my goodness.
This is elevator pitch time, is it?
Yeah, elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch.
Tabletop News is a weekly series that focuses on not just TTRPGs, but all forms of tabletop gaming, board games, card games, war games, of course, TTRPGs, events, game developers, but most importantly, the community and the people that are out there making amazing content already, like you fine folks. We want to be able to have a home to be able to spotlight all of the tabletop community, which is tough right now. It's hard to find something like that. And our content will be short form. So it will be quick, easy to digest, and easy to access because it'll be all across the internet on your favorite social media platform. And so hopefully you'll be able to just see it everywhere and learn new things.
So one of the things that I picked up from the Kickstarter promo trailer there, is it going to be a show when you kind of come on and tell the news that latest games are coming out, what's new, or is it going to be snippets across various social medias, or is it a combination of everything? As a regular show we can tune into live and then recorded, and then just those snippets?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of both. We will have one show that will be the longer episode with all of the little segments that we have in one spot. So if you want to sit there for, 12, 15, however many, it all kind of depends on what's going on that week, how long the episodes will be. It basically just comes down to, do you want to watch the whole thing? Otherwise, they will be cut up into pieces per segment, per piece of news, and then distributed on social media. So if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering and you're like, I only really want to see the new Magic the Gathering things, you'll be able to do that via playlists. Or if you want to get to know something new, you can watch the full episode and kind of see some of the other games that maybe you're missing out on, or creators or journalists.
Speaking of, you mentioned Magic the Gathering, the new Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
looks incredible. I mean,
it looks beautiful.
Do you already have any inside information? Is it really just one ring card?
I do not have any insider information.
Not
ask
yet.
me in a couple months
yet.
when we're making tabletop news.
Exactly, fantastic.
We do have a question actually. I'll just put it up on the screen. So on Tabletop News, do you plan on also bringing forth foreign creators? I know we have quite a few prominent creators in Scandinavia, so Denmark, Norway, Sweden, for instance.
Yes, that is
and the UK.
And the UK.
I'm just putting that out there.
Honestly, so basically, Tabletop News is kind of a little bit long-winded, but when we had this idea, we've been working on it for the past year, and we wanted to be able to put together a little bit of a proof of concept. So we basically got our friends together and we shot this. We shot what you saw as our now teaser. We shot these pieces of footage in between San Diego Comic-Con and Gen Con. So half of all of the people we knew were out of town or couldn't be there to be a part of this. So we called up our friends and we're like, hey, we're just kind of throwing together some footage, and we want to put a proof of concept together. And that's kind of how it started. And we want this Kickstarter to be successful because of that comment just now. We want to be able to bring on people from all over the world. We do shoot in a studio in Los Angeles, so our hosts are Los Angeles based, but we want to get to a point where we can do segments and pieces about the community outside of America, because the tabletop community exists well beyond just one country. So it's really important to us that we're able to do that, because I think it would be so incredible to be able to say hire a host out of Denmark or Sweden or the UK and have them go touch on a story or go to a convention on behalf of Tabletop News. So yes, answer in long form or in shorter form. Absolutely, we definitely want to do that.
That's definitely a great idea. We, as Band of Badgers, as we were just talking about this before we went on air, is basically we work with companies all around the world, large and small, and individual creators. And we talk with writers and artists, and they come on our show. Either it could be an interview, or they generally just come and play games with us. We have guest spots. So if anyone out there is watching this and you're a writer, an artist, you have something to promote, obviously get in touch. You mentioned the other hosts and the team of friends. What we've got here is a slide. Is this the main group of people in front of the camera?
Currently, yes.
Cool.
Yes.
I mean, there's again the team, and we were talking about this before we went live. But the team here are great, and as you said, you're all local. You've all worked together on various different projects. Is it fun? Is it as kind of friendly as it seems? Because you all go out and hang around together, and you play games together. Is it going to get to a point where you don't want to get bored of games, because games is the fun bit, but when fun becomes the job, where's the divide? Are you all just going to be like, it's getting too serious, guys, we're done, we're going to play something else now?
I don't think so, because there are so many games out there, and like I said, Tabletop News will cover so many different aspects of tabletop gaming and the hobby and the people.
Sure.
But just in terms of the producers who are also hosts, Michelle and Nathan and myself, we have definitely been like, oh my gosh, like this is a hard process. It is so difficult to run a Kickstarter. And I'm sure Michelle is super sick of seeing my face every single day. But we still get together and play games, or we still casually will go out to dinner. And I think that that's really fun, because instead of it becoming work, it's kind of it feels like fun, and it's amazing that we get to work on this project with our friends.
Yeah.
What was the hardest thing to get started with the whole thing? Obviously, from the proof of concept, that was probably quite an accelerated process. When did it all start to slow down and get boggy?
There's been hurdles along the way. I think a lot of it is just fully telling people what we're about and being able to spread the word. That's the hardest thing. And I think that's the hardest thing for any creator, which is why this show we feel is so important, because we want Tabletop News to kind of be that spot where the people who are struggling to be seen and have a really amazing new game coming out, or a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign, or they just have a YouTube channel where they review games or play games. So I think that it's, I think that sharing and spreading the word has been the most difficult, because we are all very passionate about this. And also just all the information and time and effort it goes into not only planning a show well beyond a Kickstarter, but the Kickstarter itself is running a Kickstarter is extremely difficult.
Everyone who comes on for when we do these sort of shows, they all say exactly the same thing. That is the hardest part.
Yeah.
You see, Misha was in chat there, just shouting out. She's saying hi.
Oh, Michelle! Hello, love you. He's not that sick of me, huzzah!
just as we were going over the topic, yeah.
Yeah.
There was another question earlier. And it was from 88 Riddles. And is there a sign up for interview? So that just goes back to what you were talking about. So I was trying to find it as he was talking.
And sign up for interviews. Yes. Okay. So first we have to get this Kickstarter completed, because without that we don't have a show, and we don't really have a platform to be able to highlight other creators or interview people at all. Mm-hmm. So step one, complete the Kickstarter. And then we will have a sign-up process where you can, hey, I want to share this person with you, or give suggestions. I think one of the most important things about this show for us is we want the community to tell us what they'd like to see, and what type of people that they would like to see interviewed and covered on the show. So we will absolutely have many outlets for the community to be able to contact us with suggestions or news or anything.
That was going to be one of my expanding questions, was where are you going to get your sources from? Is there some sort of community upvote plan in place, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we definitely want the community to be a part of that, but we also will be hiring a team of researchers and writers to be able to put that all together in a nice way for the hosts to be able to read in a timely manner on set.
There's definitely, as you say, that there's such, especially because of the backing and funding that you can do. Like, again, Kickstarter is one of many different forms that you can use, but it just allows people to do bigger production, bigger games, and some of the stuff that's come out in recent years is crazy. I mean, you go from a £30 or $30 board game on the shelf to something that's over $100, over £100, and you think, this thing is huge. I mean, I'm a big fan of Gloomhaven. So Frosthaven's come out recently. It's heavy. These are big, heavy boxes, and you unpack these games, you think, wow, where do I start? And then, like I watched, Tabletop News has also been doing stuff to live shows anyway. I watched your Exploding Munchkins, which was my little boy. He's 8 years old. He loves exploding kittens. We got Exploding Kittens and Exploding Kitten Zombies, or whatever it is. And I didn't know the Munchkins was out there, but I watched it, and I remember playing a game of him, and it was great fun, and it was just something silly. So you don't have to buy these £200, $200 that weigh as much as a person that you're trying to carry. And take hours to unbox. I love Gloomhaven, but hey, that's a life quest there, just on its own.
When you have to watch a video on how to put it back in the box, it might be too big.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's actually a question I have for you. Are you the type of people that put everything back in the box where it goes, or are you just a throw it all in there and worry about it the next time you open it?
No, it has to go. But I mean, so I kickstarted Tanaris Adventures 3 years ago, and it arrived last weekend, and I had to apologise to the postman. It was 23 kilos. And so I unpacked it, and then I put all of the cards in the card holders and everything, and then was trying to put it back in the box, and I had to find something on YouTube to watch because pause the video, right, do that bit, pause the video, do that bit. It has to go back in where it came from.
Yep.
That's it with me. I'm very particular about those sort of things.
Me too.
So one of the questions we keep getting asked is the production behind Tabletop News. How did we know the idea came around because they're talking about it in the promo. But did it stem from that? Is there something else beyond that? Are you would Tabletop News become like the IGN but of board games, of analog games, not computer games? Are you also will you cover computer games in any way?
No. There's already
Good.
so many amazing places that cover video games. And we love video games. We're all avid video gamers as well. But, we really wanted to create Tabletop News and watch Tabletop because we wanted there to be a place that only tabletop games get talked about. And not just the top tabletop games or the top creators in the space. We will still talk about those things, but we want to be able to talk about more and in more detail. So yeah.
That's cool. So coming back to the studio, how because the studio already exists. So how has that come around in time building the new sets? What's behind that?
Yeah, so Two Kings Entertainment does have a studio that they use for renting out to other productions. There's a lot of really amazing people who have rented the studio and created their projects out of it. So basically, Adam and Jim just had a dream and said, we're gonna do this. We're gonna put in our own money and we're gonna build this set and just put together some little clips just to try to get a vibe of what the show could be. And that's pretty much where it started, I guess. We don't have I guess the funding outside of Kickstarter to be able to run Tabletop News solely on our own, because it is an expensive endeavor to do a weekly show where it is something that you need to have researchers and writers on, because we want to make sure that we're bringing exciting news to the community, as well as talking about things that people want to hear. And that takes people to help out with that. And right now we're just a band of 5 producers and we're trying to run everything virtually on our own. So yeah, it's been a process, but we're doing it.
So your Kickstarter started on the 14th of March.
Yes.
You are about, I think it's nearly 50% funded. What's the plan for the next 2 weeks?
Panic.
It does seem to be a lot. We talked about how much pressure and stress is on when you do a Kickstarter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is there? There's obviously a hard question, and the hard question is, what happens if we don't reach the amount we need to do this?
Yeah.
Are you just going to continue to do it anyway? Is there a different way to do it? Is there a different type of show? Is there a plan B? Or
that's a great question.
It's a tough one.
To start with, though, what are you doing for the next 2 weeks? I think we are working our butts off. That's what we're doing. We're trying to spread the word. And we're trying to further just tell and let the community know what we're about and why we want this show to be successful. And then we are doing the live streams. Right now we're doing them every Monday and Wednesday. We're bringing on various Los Angeles local-based gamers to come on and play board games with us to help drive some donations to the Kickstarter. But as of right now, if the Kickstarter does not get completed, the show does not get made. We do not have outside funding to be able to do so. We are. I don't know what we would do, to be honest.
Well, I mean, you do so much already. I mean, in terms of the DAP network, the work you do as dragons and things, and stuff with Paizo, there's a lot there that gets done. And again, we were talking before we went live about how fun it is just to sit around a game and improv a game, because you enjoy it because you're in person and you get to do that, and then you can put it onto YouTube for an audience to see. Now, one of the things I'm going to sidestep a little bit is because over here in the UK, there is a huge appetite for watching those things live on a stage or during a convention. And I'm sure there are in the States. We know of Glass Cannon doing their live tour all up and down, or different cities all up and down the country, as well as just doing live streams and get onto gaming. So I know it's difficult to get onto a plane or the expense and coming over to the UK or to going anywhere. But I think I would love to see you guys doing that in front of a live audience. If I know you've got a studio and that's kind of the business, but yeah, the next step for that is telling those stories. Is that something you can do at conventions? Is that something you can kind of book in and?
Yes and no. Honestly, that's a dream. I love playing games in person. I think it especially after the pandemic. I remember at one point I was doing like 8 shows a week virtually.
Wow.
And it was and our mutual friend Diana Restrepo probably still, like, I think at one point she's doing like 20 shows a week because she is goals. But you know, you get a little bit of fatigue staring at a computer screen, especially for hours, sitting in one spot. You have bright lights on you sometimes. And so sitting and getting to play games with your friends in person is so amazing, especially after the pandemic. So yes, I think we would absolutely love to be able to travel, and whether we're playing board games, card games, or a TTRPG, I think that would be amazing. Right now, to do a production outside of the local vicinity, the costs right now are it's really expensive to do that. To do a live show or to even go to a convention and bring a team to a convention is really costly. So it's definitely something that we hope that we can do in the future. Or if we're already attending a convention or event, hopefully an opportunity would arise to be able to participate in something like that, because I know we would all love to.
So we wanted to. I'm going on a tangent there, but I'm going to try and bring it back to the studio again. I wanted to put up some. We've got some slides of the stuff that you were able to. And there she is again. There's Diana. She's here. She's there. She's everywhere. I'm not sure what. I can't take the piss too much, because I know Diana is. She's a trained. She does weapon training. So she will kick my ass.
She's incredible. She would.
Get on a plane and come and
exactly. So I'm trying not to piss her off. But anyway, we can swear. I forgot to mention that earlier. We can swear. I swear all the time. I'm just being polite at the moment. So tell us about how you've managed to do the promo, and tell us about the set production, because it looks great. I mean, it is just. Is it going to be as simple as a news desk? I know, like when I was watching Exploding Munchkins, you've got the gaming table there. That looks great. And normally we see different parts of the studio, and you've got like the dungeon fantasy area. But this looks straightforward and simple. Will this be the delivery? And now here's the news.
Yeah, so when delivering the news, we definitely will be using this set that you see on the screen with the simple desk. It makes it easier, especially when we are cutting down the segments into vertical formats for Instagram and TikTok. It does kind of have to be shot in a way that works both horizontally and vertically. This works the best as far as delivering the news and kind of showcasing, breaking news or just talking about something between two hosts. And then we also have different segments that will utilize other parts of the studio. We did a little interview portion that we used for the teaser on the dungeon set that we have. And then we kind of repurposed this set for other segments, so we can put a TV there and showcase something behind a host standing on the set. and then hopefully, just like that. And then hopefully, that was perfect timing. Hopefully, we'll be able to do more of like on the ground type stuff where we can, do more human interest pieces where we go and we see, a real person out in the world, be able to tell their story, and not everything would have to be virtual. But yeah, we try to utilize our set in as many ways as we can.
I think there's so much stuff and variety there you could do. Again, it's just, I think I think it was Adam in the promo teaser kind of thing where he mentions when you start thinking about the possibilities that you can do as a team yourselves, there is a lot there. It's not just, okay, here's a new game, here it is. There are 101 people, 1,000, 1,000,001 people just like we do it. We do unboxing videos and we say, this is good, but it's only my personal opinion. But we want that news to come out, and we want to champion an independent voice.
Yeah.
And we know that companies, again, like IGN for computer games, they can be swayed. And you kind of get a game, you go, this is not as good as they said. This is 10 out of 10, and it's not. We actually want people like yourselves, and we have in the chat earlier, you're a massive gamer nerd. You love board games. You love games. You just, the social aspect of gaming as a whole is just, it's just the best part of it. Because again, on a regular basis, getting around with friends or meeting new people, and having fun, just having a laugh, at the end of the week is fantastic. And all the stress of a week can just melt away, and that is fantastic. So audience, take my words to heed there. Here you go. Start having some fun.
And one thing about tabletop news, and like you said, there are so many people that are doing reviews or how-to plays of all these games. And so for tabletop news specifically, we're not looking to do that. We're more or less looking to go, hey, here are some people who do that really well. Go watch them. And where our hosts all have different interests in the tabletop world. I may be more of a Pokemon fan than, say, one of our other hosts. So I may be like, oh, wow, this Pokemon thing is cool because I like it. That doesn't mean that this is going to be like an opinion show or anything along those lines.
I was going to ask, between all the hosts that you've got on, can you take dibs? So I'm into Pokemon. That's mine. You lot, Xander, back off. It's mine. This is where we're going.
Well, personally, I think a show where maybe someone is a fan and someone who maybe isn't as knowledgeable together is the best way to present something, because then you kind of can have the best of both worlds. Someone who's maybe like, ooh, maybe I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan, or I don't know anything about it. And then you have someone that's like, I really love Pokemon. It's what I grew up with. And sort of seeing that dynamic. So it's not just two people who love Pokemon talking about Pokemon.
Yeah. You don't want to go down too deep down the rabbit hole. You want to kind of keep it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of about finding a balance. And it also comes down to availability. That's why we want a huge repertoire of hosts, and we want to be able to cast more voices, especially people who nobody knows. We want to bring new faces to the community for tabletop news. So, and everyone has different interests. So I think that's what makes a show more fun and also a little bit more credible. Yeah. So are you the fan of Pokemon? Is it?
It might be me.
I can see the Pokemon stuff in the background. That's
no!
What I'm going at.
Shoot, I gave myself away. Dang it.
So
yes, I am a bit of a Pokemon fan.
Here's a Pokemon question. How did you feel about the news that it's his last adventure? That this is.
Yes, Ash and Pikachu's last adventure. It's heartbreaking, but at the same time, I think maybe it's time to tell a new story. But at the same time, it's like there's going to be a new crop of kids that grow up with someone new, which is great. But it's like, but it started with Ash and Pikachu, so I don't know. It's kind of like a little bit of I'm feeling like. Sad, but also happy.
It is. It feels like everyone has to grow up, and I suppose cartoon characters have to grow up as well.
Yeah.
But it's like, wow, he's been doing it for so long, but he finally gets it.
He is the greatest Pokemon master that ever lived.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve. Sorry, did you? I was interrupting you, Steve. Sorry. Did you have a question?
I didn't. No, no. I've forgotten what I was going to say now. When you're speaking about Pokemon.
I was talking about Pokemon. Sorry, Steve. Was that a spoiler for you?
He's a Pokemon fan, and I'm not. I'm afraid.
That's okay.
I barely know who Ash and Pikachu are. I will admit to that.
Have you played the card game though?
No, I haven't. No.
Honestly,
How have you not played it?
you might
And
get some
I've not played
enjoyment out
Magic
of
the
it.
Gathering either. I'm
Oh.
yeah, card games have not really got into.
You need to watch more shows, Steve. That's what it is. we get you into it. We're going to be doing the UK Games Expo, which is the
Yeah.
biggest 3-4 day event here in the UK. Steve and myself are going to be there. We've been invited as press, so we're going to see those. For those of you who, if you're watching this live and you're from the UK, do get your tickets, because if you didn't know, Luke Gygax is coming over. So to do it, it's worth it. It's your only chance to meet him, other than paying £1,000 to get on a plane and fly into the States. So it's a really good thing to do. The Datnet says, question, what?
Yes.
We'll
Card games.
see if it comes back.
Yo, Skylar Seymour in chat is a huge Magic the Gathering fan.
I could
So
tell.
that's the person to ask about anything Magic related.
You know, Magic. Maybe we'll get you on as a guest, but yeah, Magic is something I'm still. I buy loads of cards and I'm still struggling. So I definitely need tutorials. You mentioned you haven't mentioned it yet. I'm going to put it on the screen. Then I mention it. So we got Carlos Luna and Becca Scott. Now I know Becca Scott has done a lot of stuff with Magic the Gathering. Is she honestly a big fan of that? Do you know?
The biggest.
Really?
The biggest.
This
Like,
would be
if you
the
want
one-
to
the
talk about
wondering
anyone
question,
calling
yeah.
dibs about anything, if anything Magic the Gathering came up, I bet Becca would just be like, mine, please.
And we got, Carlos Luna as well. I've only seen him in the doing the different shows. Again, it's great. You've got so many different faces on, so many different personalities, and they're all geeks. I love
Yeah.
that.
Honestly,
That's
Carlos
the
is
best
one
thing.
of the most talented individuals I think I've ever met in my life. I met Carlos for the first time back summer 2021. We were invited to play in a Power Rangers TTRPG for Renegade called Day of Destiny.
I
And
think I've seen that.
we were both Power Rangers together. And that was the first time I ever met Carlos. And I was just extremely blown away, not just by his ability to play the game. And he's just so creative and talented. And his improv skills are just absolutely wild. Like, watching him on this show was just incredible. And then, not to mention, he is such an amazingly talented producer, and he just knows so much about the industry and tabletop gaming and social media. I mean, honestly, he is a fountain of knowledge. We are lucky to have him involved.
I think he's definitely a catch. Again, looking at the people involved, it's like, yes, wow. Yeah, and this is what I mean. This is why I'm excited for this project to work. These are people that I've watched on various shows who, I know I keep saying it, but we're all just big kids. We got into gaming and we're still gaming as we've got older.
Yeah, we're really lucky. Us adults that have found our gaming friends, we're really lucky, because
It
I
is.
remember when I was in elementary school and middle school, I was a huge medieval fantasy nerd and a really big fan of Xena Warrior Princess.
I
And
remember Xena, yeah.
I got made fun of all the time for being a nerd because I was into all these fantasy things. Even Pokemon when I was a kid, before it blew up, I got made fun of for liking Pokemon, which is crazy. But I think we're just also lucky to have found our fellow nerds, especially online.
Definitely. We do have that network. Is that you, Adam, or is that you, James, or is that someone else hiding behind the buttons there?
I don't know, actually.
The question is, what's something you wish more people knew about tabletop news?
Ooh, that's a good question. We actually just did this thread on Twitter with all of our addressing questions and concerns. And I think that, I really want the community to know that this show is being made for them. We're not just saying that so that we can go take, WotC money and call it a day. We really do want to be working with community members. We want to be offering, sponsorship or advertising opportunities to smaller companies. We want to be able to work with people who don't necessarily get the spotlight all the time, or maybe people who are just starting out and need a bit of a lift up. So that's kind of what we're about. And I that's something I wish more people knew.
Definitely. Here's something. Well, we were talking quite a while. We're going to ask a lot of the questions again. But anyway, here's something we didn't know. Oh, follow-up question. What do people get wrong, mistaken about tabletop news?
Who's writing these? Everyone. Okay. Honestly,
I think Adam and James are ganging up on you. I think that's what it is.
They are. That's fine. They're just trying to keep me on my toes. We are not affiliated, nor anything similar to Will Wheaton's Tabletop on Geek and Sundry. We have had multiple people, which is funny to me, because if you just read like the first paragraph on our Kickstarter, you would know this. We're not doing reviews or how-to plays on Tabletop News. But we were all really big fans of Will Wheaton's Tabletop, but that show did not bring tabletop news to the community in a short form way. So the only similarities we have are just the word tabletop in both our titles. But that's something funny that I see very often. Like, why are they just trying to be Will Wheaton's Tabletop? And I'm like, wait, nothing similar.
So that's going to be a key thing then, is getting the trust and maintaining the trust of the community that you are being completely impartial and the voice for the little person.
Well, honestly, that is something that I think anyone creating content online is going to struggle with, no matter if the community is behind them or not. I've been a content creator online for about 13 years. And so I know what it's like to work with brands. I know what it's like to have a genuine love of something, whether it's sponsored or not sponsored. I can guarantee you that Tabletop News will absolutely be disclosing anything that is sponsored and be following all FTC guidelines, because that is what is legally required of everyone on the internet. So, we do get asked that question a lot of, how will we know whether or not you like something or whether or not, you're being paid? And it will be very, very, very clear the difference between the two, as well as the fact that we're not an opinion show. So we won't be sitting up there like, hey, go look at this thing because I like it a lot.
I think definitely for some of the main, like we mentioned, Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, there's always new things coming out. I mean, pretty much 4 times a year, every quarter. We're gonna see regular updates, but mixed in with that is when we want to see those kind of the Kickstarter funded ones, which are gone, oh, this looks interesting. This is taking a bit of this and a bit of that, and for whatever reason, this looks like something you could be interested in. And I love that.
And I feel like, those games are really popular games that are probably getting that type of coverage already. But we want to kind of look at some of the games that maybe people don't necessarily play all the time or know about. Recently, we actually just, one of our team members, Nathan, got to meet the creator at WonderCon of the game Sabotage, which is like a boba inspired card board game. And that was something that I had never heard of. And they are a bit new to the community. And we were like, this is really cool. This game is adorable and so fun. Like, we want to talk about that. So kind of finding more of those type of games and creators and everything to talk about is really what we're passionate about.
Good. Another question from 88. Here we go. Let's try and click it before.
Sorry.
Oh, that one. There we go. So question for 88. Question: will you be recovering? Will you be covering all aspects of the community, i.e., things like the OGL drama, which we all know about, we all heard about it, or will this remain a more positive vibe throughout and avoid those topics? I think as Tabletop News, you should. Again, the opinions are your own. but you can still cover the news because it shook the community.
Yeah.
Again, if you think about how the gateway is usually Dungeons and Dragons, and when you get into this, people, as you grow up, you go, oh, I'm inspired to tell these stories or play these games or be an artist, or wouldn't it be a dream job to work there? And then some people, and we know some people who work there as well, have been able to get those dream jobs. And then suddenly for this to happen, you think, wow, this must be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But we defended our friends. We stand for the OGL. And we're just waiting to see what happens next. Can Wizards recover? It was a bad decision. Now they've got to recover from that. But I think if you shy away from those topics, we need to... Everything needs an equal representation. So I would definitely say don't, and I think we need to hear those stories.
Yes.
Because so much good came out of that. I mean, it's a massive dark shadow. And look at, I don't know if you know, Kelsey Dione. She's been a guest on our show. She played games with us last year or the year before. She launched a Kickstarter. You may be there if anyone's interested. I know it's another Kickstarter. It's into the last hours, if not. But a tremendous game. It looks incredible. So it can do wonderful things for very, very talented people.
Yeah. And to answer the question, I think we would, had the show been around, that would absolutely be something we would have talked about. More importantly, the gaming community knew about it. But if you were to go ask a casual gamer relative who maybe just goes to Target or Walmart, buys a board game and plays it on the weekend with their friends, they may not have known what the OGL even was. And that's kind of where Tabletop News would come in, because we wouldn't just be talking about it for the hardcore gaming community. It would be more because specifically, I think, the investigative journalists who are already out there covering these things are doing an incredible job. We are not that. We are not investigative journalists. So while we would be covering the facts of what this is, what is going on, we would leave that sort of journalism up to, the pros who are doing it really well. And also being able to kind of bring that knowledge to the more general gaming people out there. Because I had many, many friends and family members who have board game nights with their friends all the time that went, what's an OGL? What does that even mean? And I was like, how do you not know about this? Because news like that, I think, deserves to have a wider net to be able to kind of hear about what's going on in the community, especially because it is impacting so many people's lives. So yes, to answer your question, we absolutely would be talking about it. We wouldn't be, but we just wouldn't be doing the investigative journalism that others do so well.
I think that's the plot for a whole new RPG show. Yes. You're all investigative journalists.
Yes.
Hunting down news stories and roll your dice. There you go.
Honestly, yes. Someone should make that.
There you go. Ka-ching. Kickstarter. We have we had a question from Lemon. How do you differentiate between board and card games?
That's such a good question, because nowadays I feel like most games are both. That is a good question. I guess if your game does not come with a board, it is a card game, and if your game comes with a board, it is a board game. But I would agree. I mean, I was thinking the same thing,
but in my head, I'm thinking, okay, going back to Gloomhaven, which is you're carrying a small person around with you the whole time, which is really heavy, and the amount of stuff you have to take out. And also, I have a dining table. I have a rectangle dining table. The table is not big enough to play this game, so I don't know what I'm going to do. It's a whole conundrum which I do not have the answers for.
But yeah, there's a lot of games, like we even played the Blockbuster game last night, and that's a game that has a board, but it's a card game. And same with Munchkin. Some varieties of Munchkin come with a board, and some do not. So.
I need to get hold of that game. Exploding Munchkins. I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, we mashed up Exploding Kittens and Munchkin to kind of just make it like this wild mashup of games, but it was really fun.
See, that's your next Kickstarter. You get tabletop news, and then talk to these
Exploding Munchkin.
talk to them, the companies, and just get in there. You could do that easy. I wanted some more about tabletop news. I wanted to talk about the branding.
Yeah.
So fantastic logo.
Thank you.
How did that come around? Is this the final thing? Or this might change or what?
As far as I'm aware, this is the logo, and this is a brainchild of Adam Rady. And honestly, I can't exactly speak on it because I don't know the ins and outs of how it all got created. But I do know that Adam worked with, I believe, an artist to come up with this, and then. Yeah, I can't specifically remember if there was a separate artist that did the digital version or if Adam did that himself. He is a very skilled graphics artist as well, though he would say he wasn't. That's our logo. I don't know the ins and outs of it though. That's more of a question for Adam.
I definitely like it because straight away, the biggest thing when I noticed it is obviously. And I asked a question at the beginning about computer games. Is it completely analog? Are we talking about offline, around a table? And this for me is it. There's no sign of a controller or anything like that, or a VR headset. It is what, I don't know, I guess the games we all grow up with anyway.
We wanted it to feel like game pieces as well as a board, as well as possibly cards. And then, of course, the very recognizable T20. We tried to represent tabletop, and also it kind of looks like a tabletop too. That's really Adam Rady's brainchild right there.
So, Steve, I see you some questions there.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So let's put that one back up. There we go. So what potential interviewees at the top of your dream list of people to have on the show?
Ooh, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that.
I know something. So I don't know if many people know this, but next week, you've already promoted it on social, so it's not a secret. It's not a secret.
Yes.
But you have Matt Mercer.
We do. Yes, we're very excited to have Matt Mercer join us next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific on Watch Tabletop. We're going live on YouTube and TikTok, and we are playing Pretty Pretty Princess, which was a social unlock on our Kickstarter. And so we're really excited. When we dress up, we bring Matt Mercer.
Yeah, I mean that's fantastic. I know there are connections with you all anyway, with a lot of people in the same location. But that was wow, fantastic.
It's amazing, honestly. Michelle and I have known Matt for years, well before the Critical Role stuff. Just in the regular content creation YouTube days, and it's just been so wonderful to watch. Their love turn into something so wonderful. So we're all really happy for them.
Do you think there'll ever be a Critical Role movie where this is the origin story of them?
Yeah, why not? That would be amazing. Why not?
We get a documentary style behind the scenes one day. This is how it happened.
I mean, they're pretty popular, those sort of shows.
Steve's not on the internet. I don't let him out the box that often, but yeah, saying Critical Role are quite popular. Yeah.
No, I meant I meant the shows, the backstory shows.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But just for the question about who to bring on, there's so many wonderful people. I don't want anyone to feel left out by picking someone specifically, but I would say that something that I'm the most passionate about as a producer is I want to be able to eventually highlight some really incredible stories. Like I would love to find the tabletop group that has been playing in the same game for 50 years, or possibly
that's
someone.
Me and Steve. Maybe not 50 years, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to find like those stories that are really more of like a human interest story within the tabletop community, or maybe even like kids in a children's hospital who are playing TTRPGs or board games. I'm more passionate about finding those kind of stories to bring that to tabletop news eventually. But yeah, there's so many incredible people and stories out there that I would love to bring to tabletop news.
So going back to a question from earlier, how will you make sure that the content you make will reach the more general casual audience instead of a niche? So I mean that plays into what you was just talking about actually with
Yeah.
the human interest aspect.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question because, you can't please everyone. You're going to have hardcore gamers that say, we want more of this, or niche gaming. And then you have casual gamers that would go, I don't know what you're talking about. And so we kind of want to be a bridge between both worlds where we can talk about niche things, and hopefully eventually being able to go to conventions and events can kind of touch a little bit more on that. But also it's presenting it in a way that is, that makes it digestible for a casual gamer as well. Something as easy as, oh, do you like this kind of game? Well, check out this kind of game, or that sort of thing. Finding similarities to something that someone's already familiar with would help a casual gamer. But yeah, we're definitely working on trying to cover both of those things, but we do know that that's a difficult task.
Yes.
We've got we're down. So everybody who's watching us live, thank you very much for joining us. We're down to the last sort of 10 minutes. So if you want to get your questions out, do put them into chat. Don't be shy. We'll put them on screen and we can find out those answers. Now, one of the things again we were talking about off air is more about yourself and what you were doing with sci-fi and HBO. And I saw your stuff you did with the Game of Thrones kind of behind the scenes stuff. That was really good. That was interesting. But what? How did that come about? You mentioned that was just your own thing. It wasn't part of this studio.
Yeah, no, so I've been a content creator online, making YouTube videos, and acting and hosting, and I had always been covering like medieval fantasy things on my YouTube channel and nerd culture and gaming, and I was a huge fan of Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon. So I started doing reviews on my YouTube channel. I just started talking about it. I started going to events. And then from there, I was really lucky to be able to work directly with HBO for some projects regarding Game of Thrones, as well as this past year, I got to write and host on a show for Roku about House of the Dragon, and I got to go to San Diego Comic-Con and do their experience there, and it was amazing. But basically, it just started out with me being a fan, and then getting to it's kind of like mixing my hosting skills with being a content creator, and then just having those opportunities present themselves it's just so cool. Like I was completely geeking out. And actually, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, years and years and years ago, back when Game of Thrones first came out, I believe it was right after season 3, HBO held a contest. It was an editing contest through Facebook where you had to edit a trailer for using their clips and their horrible editing program that they had back then. And I actually won a trip to Northern Ireland because I edited this thing and got to go on set of Game of Thrones. I didn't get to I met some of the cast actually, but they weren't in production at the time. It was more pre-production for the next season, but I got to sit on the actual Iron Throne, which was an amazing life goal.
But this is what I mean about where content creators, it starts off as an interest, and obviously we enjoy what we do. We're fans of that. But yeah, getting to you mentioned you won a competition for that, but for the presenting, the hosting part, did they approach you, or did you have to kind of interview for it? Did you have to promote yourself to get to be able to do that?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, I had to audition or interview. But in a lot of cases, especially if it involved content creation for my YouTube channel, a lot of times they found me through my content. And they knew I was a fan. So that's always the advice I give to anyone who wants to be a content creator. Talk about what you like, because usually the people will find you and can see that you genuinely like something.
They're always passionate about you, honest with the honesty of saying, look, I really like this, and I can talk about. And it's the same. We do it with D&D and Pathfinder. If I get to meet Luke Gygax when he comes over here in the UK for UK Games Expo, if I get near him, I'm gonna He's going to need security. He really is. Steve's going to be like holding my legs, trying not to run, but I'm going to talk his ear off. I really am, because it has been a big part of our lives, and we get attached to something, and it's D&D and storytelling and fantasy. Like you say, I'm a big fan of fantasy and magic and those stories. And I've my boy is 8, and I'm teaching those to him. So it's something that I grew up with and I really loved, and I want him to have that kind of enjoyment as well. You also mentioned about you do a lot of hosting. Is Tabletop News your first time producing?
No, so I've produced obviously like hundreds of videos on my own channel,
Yeah.
but I've worked with other brands to produce more like commercials or ads for them.
Okay.
I've worked with Disney and Doritos and just a bunch of companies making content with them, as well as one of the things that I love that I've done. I don't want to say it's the best thing I've done, but something I was really passionate about. I actually got to help produce the 25th anniversary of Xena Warrior Princess for Sci-Fi.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to create, and that was all very community based, because, you know, when you have a network, they're just kind of like, yeah, let's talk about Xena. And I'm like, no. We need to talk about the Xena fans. Like, they didn't necessarily know that there's a Xena convention every single year, that hundreds and thousands of fans go to, and have been going to for 25 years. And these are some of the most passionate fans that you'll ever meet. And I've been going to Xena conventions myself, so it was so fun for me to get to interview some of my friends, as well as people who had some incredible stories. Like this couple got married at a Xena convention. They found their life partners at a Xena convention.
Wow.
Xena saved their life in some sort of way, or the community of the fandom saved their life in some sort of way. And that was honestly something that was so rewarding for me. Just outside of getting to interview the cast, was really getting to hear about everyone's stories of how one cheesy 90s show changed so many people's life for the better. And, you know, that's what I want to bring to Tabletop News, but in a tabletop capacity.
Yeah. I love that whole idea. I think as we get older, we meet different people along the way, and they all have their own stories. But it is definitely the stories, the TV, the books we read when we're kids that instill something in us. And you think about the movie directors now, like James Gunn. He's just a big geek. So you get someone like that who grew up with comics and goes, you know what, I want to turn those into movies. But they were all just kids like us who grew up with the TV and everything else, and just were inspired to do something else. And I think that amount of storytelling, even on a cheesy show, can happen, and it stays with you. There are just these moments and parts of it that you carry with you. And I think if you're in a creative, I'm a designer for my day job. I take elements of that. I take elements of films and fiction and science fiction, and try to bring it into some of the stuff that I design interfaces, and I try to instill it that way. I think there is a couple more questions, Steve, before we get to the end.
Yeah, so there was, will Tabletop News talk about software for tabletop? So VTTs, well, I think D&D Beyond have a new, or D&D
Direct.
That's
Not,
it, D&D Direct.
Yeah, they had a new computer game-ish looking thing. And I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence at the moment, because I like the look of it. I think as a game, a computer game, that might be quite fun. But when we played Neverwinter Nights, when that first came out as a computer game, you had a DM could make their maps and make a story and trigger traps and things. It's just that, but with better graphics. But the amount of DM prep involved to make a tavern and processing power your computer needed at that point was far too much. I much prefer imagination and doing those things and keeping it this way.
Yeah, I would say virtual tabletops are definitely a way to enhance a game, especially if you don't all live in the same spot. So I think it won't be a main focus, but I do think that if it does enhance a tabletop game in some way, I don't see why we wouldn't talk about it.
Cool. And we have ooh, I thought I lost you there. We're getting some. I can hear the rain. We've got a thunderstorm outside, and suddenly everything starts to go. It's going to be a bit scary. Right, last question, folks. Do we have one more before we go? What was that? You got two stars there, Steve.
I think they're the ones I've already done.
Oh, they're all right. Right, okay. Last question. Anyone's got the last question? Who wants to have the last question? What's? I'll get in there. What's next? For tabletop news, how long do you have to wait? So, if when the Kickstarter succeeds, how soon are you into production?
Immediately. Yeah, if the
Fantastic.
Kickstarter is funded completely, then we can start immediately, and we look to turn around a show very quickly.
And is it going to be based on like seasons, or is it just ongoing?
So we actually broke it down on Kickstarter so people could understand, like, we had a starting point. So it is kind of broken down in seasons, but our goal is to just have it be continuous, because we really just needed to get our name out there. We do need to have the starting funds in place to be able to get through 10 episodes, but it will give us the time to be able to find advertisers and sponsorships, and hopefully be able to continue that show so there wouldn't be any sort of pausing. It would just be continuous weekly.
Fantastic. And there is one last question that's come in. You managed to sneak in.
Oh, it's Zach. Hello, Zach.
Question: how do you see the tabletop community developing in the next 5 years? Again, a great question.
Honestly, just thinking about the last 5 years and how much more popular tabletop gaming has become, I think, and I don't necessarily think it's more popular. I just think that it's finally getting a spotlight. So what my hope is for the next 5 years is that we're not just talking about D&D. We're talking about all the other games that exist out there, board games, card games, and hopefully there's a way for these sort of games to be spotlighted and talked about more frequently. And it's not just kind of the same names we're hearing over and over again. That's kind of what I hope.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the D&D always seems to be the gateway, but I've found that people who play D&D, you kind of find the edges fairly quickly, and you want to move on, and that's it. You want to find out what else is out there, because there are so many worlds and different things that we can enjoy. We are going to start wrapping it up there, folks. Thank you so much for joining us live. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you.
I'll just post the link to the Kickstarter again in chat. It's been in there a few times.
Okay, cool.
So it's running through till there's 13 days to go, so nearly a couple more weeks. And you've got not nearly $70,000 of the goal already, so about 45-50%. Yeah, I hope there is a big push, and I hope you get the message out to as many people as possible.
Thank you. And we really appreciate you allowing me on to talk about it. And it's wonderful to get to talk with you both.
It's fantastic to have you. You are always welcome. Again, have a chat with Dinah, see how the crazy stuff that we got up to with her.
Diana and I need to plan a trip out to England, and then we can do an in-person thing. That'd be fun.
We'll do D&D in a castle or something like that. We'll do. There's a thing that me and Steve have been planning, which is called it's Sherlock Holmes' library. And I'll that's a something for another day, but yeah, that's something else. But thank you so much for joining us. We are going to let you go now. Now, I believe you're back on Tabletop News live this afternoon in your time, not my time, but your time.
Not today.
Not today. Okay.
I don't
Wrong
think so,
wrong
no.
thing. I don't
Next
know.
Monday is our next live stream, and then the following Wednesday as well.
Cool. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we will leave it there, people. Until next time, we will see you again soon. Be good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.